The close relationship started and emerged because we wanted to work directly with the farmers. We wanted to know where the ingredients come from, how they're being produced, and how the people in their communities live. So the idea for Lemonaid and ChariTea started all the way back in Sri Lanka in 2008 when Paul, our founder, was working there for the German government as a development worker. What he found there was that a lot of the state-funded development aid was not actually reaching the people in need. It was the time after the tsunami, a lot of money had been promised to the people, but eventually not a lot of them actually reached those people. So he thought there must be a smarter way of helping people in developing countries by engaging them in a trade under fair conditions, paying them fair prices for the produce, and reinvesting profits back into their communities. He went back to Germany, where he came from, Hamburg, and found that particularly in the soft drinks market, there wasn't really much healthy choice out there. So the soft drinks you would normally find were very artificial, very sweet, and not really what he liked drinking. Especially in Southeast Asia, you found a lot of really premium drinks made from fresh juice, very refreshing, very nice, and he couldn't find any of that at home. So he thought, why not make a lemonade like I used to drink in Sri Lanka, made from fresh lime juice, just a little bit of sugar, not too sweet, and use that as a vessel, as a means of helping the people in those countries by giving the profits back into their communities, into projects. So Hamburg, I think in particular, is a place where, for some reason, a lot of innovative brands and products emerge from. Hamburg in particular, St. Pauli, which is the more bohemian part of Hamburg, where we are from, is very supportive with social businesses, ideas that help people. During the refugee crisis, there was a lot of support, especially in that part of Hamburg, helping the immigrants and refugees. So I think Hamburg has always been a place that was welcoming new and particularly social ideas. So I think it was only natural for us then, when Paul had these ideas and went into bars and cafes and had some homemade lemonades from his own shared kitchen in Hamburg and showed it to the people running those bars, that they were very supportive and said, look, this is a great idea, you want to help the farmers, we're going to support you, we're going to stock your drinks, if you can make it happen, if you can produce these drinks, we'll be your first customers. And that was literally how the first year of the company started, how the company was built, by driving in your own van from bar to cafe, and literally meeting all those people, telling the story behind it, and getting them on board as the first supporters. So the way we grow the business is very organically, in a very slow manner. We don't want to push this drink into markets and onto people. We'd rather have people discover it themselves. What we can do is we can help people, make them try the drinks, make sure it sits in the right places. But eventually what we see, it's usually 3 steps. Someone comes across the product, usually because he likes the design, likes the look of it, a friend talks about it, so the person tries it, hopefully likes the drinks. And then in a second step, only then people start finding out what it's about, what the name Lemonaid and ChariTea really stands for. And you have to do a bit of research on it. You have to go on our website, follow us on Instagram, know someone who tells you about it, which is why we particularly like working with small independent cafes, delicatessen shops or groceries, because there oftentimes the owner or the staff know the story and they're happy to share it. They're like, look, this is not just a soft drink, this is development aid, this is a social business. They're actually helping the people where it comes from. And only in that stage we see that consumers turn into advocates, into supporters of the brand, which is, I think, then the third step, where people not only buy it because they like the taste, which is still important, very important, I think, with the drink, but also because they believe in the whole ethos behind it, in the mission of what we do. They actively start following us and want to learn about us and write us emails. And we get this a lot, that people say, look, this is so incredible what you do. How can I help you? How can I spread this message? How can I share it with other people? And we've got an incredible amount of support over the years, which is great. The close relationship started and emerged because we wanted to work directly with the farmers. We wanted to know where the ingredients come from, how they're being produced, and how the people in their communities live. So for us, primarily, the reasoning behind this is to have a very direct insight into the farming and living conditions in the regions where it comes from. Everything is fair trade certified, and we think this is an absolute minimum requirement of all the products we should buy today, that there are standards that are independently monitored. But on top of that, we like to have these personal relationships with the farmers for ethical reasons, but also if you look into certain markets, you see that moving forward there will be shortages of certain products emerging, especially if you look for only organic certified, fair trade certified, premium quality produce. There's only a limited amount of that on the world market. So I think as a business that's in the game for the long run, we're also very wise to build these relationships in order to make sure that there will be enough supply, enough ethical and organic high quality supply of the produce that we use in the future. So for instance, what we do at the moment with our farmers in South Africa that grow our rooibos tea, which we use in one of our iced teas, is to develop together with them a program where they can purchase extra needed land, because out of their own resources they can't grow their business any further. It's a small cooperative. They own very small patches of land where they grow the rooibos organically, wild rooibos, and not cultivated. So the scope of their business at the moment is very limited. If they want to grow out of this situation where they're in right now, they need extra land. So we're helping them to raise the funds to grow extra land, to buy extra land and then grow extra rooibos on it. It's just one of the matters where we try to help, together with our farmers, help them grow the business. There's actually quite a few. As I said, we travel to the growing regions every year. Everyone from our company has a chance to visit the farmers and visit the project annually. So, for instance, last year I took some time off to travel to India, to Nepal, and East Africa to meet tea farmers. One of the most extraordinary experiences I encountered in northeast India, where I met a group of bio-organic tea farmers that have been working under conventional agricultural conditions in the past. So their produce wasn't organic certified. They were using loads of fertilizers as well as pesticides and herbicides on their crops. And they were talking about especially health problems, breathing problems, which they had encountered in the past. And ever since they moved to organic farming, these symptoms all seem to disappear, which makes sense if you look that in organic farming, all of these pesticides are not permitted. But what I found even more interesting is when they talked about how the community had changed over that time, because not only they converted to organic farming, but they also converted to the fair trade standards, which means that they're being paid higher prices for their produce, but it also means that they needed to establish democratic structures within their community. And that's something, especially in the old colonial tea regions of India, had never in history existed. Tea farmers never had a voice. They were never asked for their needs in particular. They were never heard. They didn't exist on a farm other than labor, force of labor. So what they said is that by being integrated into this kind of community program where they needed to elect representatives from their own, to then have negotiations with the landowners, with the farmers, strengthened their self-esteem in a way they had never imagined. You could really see it from the people's perspective, from the people's eyes, that all of a sudden they became a group that had a voice, that was shaping their own future. They were moving from this passive group that were just being exploited on that farm to this very active, hopeful community that now needed to start thinking about what do we need? What do we want to invest that premium in? Do we want to buy raincoats, or do we want to improve the road conditions so it's easier for us to walk home after work, or do we want to improve our personal living conditions? And giving people this opportunity to sort of not only grow their living conditions but also grow their own personality and their self-esteem was very exciting to witness. I think the soft drinks industry at the moment is moving in two very different directions. So on the one hand, you've got the big multinational corporations that have been around forever, that have been dominating the market for so many years, and they weren't offering consumers a healthy or sustainable or ethical choice at all in the soft drinks market. What these giants have now witnessed over the past years is that their shares, their market shares, slowly but steadily decreased. So the soft drinks market as such, from the perspective of those players, is in a bit of a crisis right now, especially since consumers are now looking into sugar levels, which again is a huge threat to the traditional business model of all those industries. So what they're coming up with as a solution is drinks that still work on the same formula, which is very standardized, industrialized recipes. There's no fresh fruits or real ingredients allowed. It all needs to be concentrates and syrups and compounds with a reduced sugar level. That's the way they're moving to. They're replacing sugar with some artificial sweeteners in order not to pay sugar tax in the UK and look a bit healthier on the outside of the bottle. But the system hasn't changed with these drinks at all. There's still hardly any CSR activities in the supply chain that you can see. There's not much discussion around that. There's no organic or fair trade labeling involved here. Actually, that part of the market is left to a few startup companies like ourselves, which we see now there's a growing consumer demand and consumers becoming a lot more picky, drinking less sweet drinks. If they drink, they are happy to pay slightly higher prices if they get a good product in return. And that's actually the kind of people that we are currently catering for. And we see this group of customers is growing and growing and growing. I think it's a one-way street. It's as soon as you've got the knowledge and you know what drinking these highly artificial and sweet soft drinks does to you, health-wise, does to the planet, does to the people involved in the long run, the less you want to consume it, the less you become aware of your choice and as your power as a consumer. So projects we're currently working on is to diversify what currently is only a soft drink offering, soft drink and iced tea offering. But I think what we've proven over the last 7 years is that the whole business model of a social enterprise in the consumer goods industry works. It can be profitable, it can be very attractive, especially to young consumers, and it can prove its place in the market, which is not only a niche, but it's growing more and more into the mainstream, into broader customer segments. So what we want to do in the next step is to take this concept of working directly with small farmers and only using organic, fair trade certified ingredients from natural source instead of from industries, from factories, and applying that onto other categories as well. Because if you look in your supermarket shelf, there's still so many areas where I personally wouldn't want to buy any of those products, or where you feel like it could be done so much better. So for us, the next step will be to launch a range of tea, a range of loose tea in different formats, different flavors, all directly sourced from farmers in the best possible quality that you could imagine, with a great design very similar to the products that we're doing at the moment, and again with a commitment to give back to the farmers and their communities with every single product that you purchase. So the Trampery is a brilliant space, not only to create innovation. I think we use it less as an innovation lab, more as a very fertile soil to grow connections on, to grow relationships on with people and to meet new people. So what you have here is this vast network of people that bring in other people. There's a lot of interaction here. The area we're sitting in right now is a communal space, which makes up probably about a third of the entire workspace. So this is key for meeting new people, businesses coming through, having events here that we get introduced to every now and then. We bring in our own clients here who then do events here. So it's a very strong link and network between businesses in London, especially in East London, that are interested in creativity, in design, in sustainability. So basically all these kind of industries that we also feel very strong about. So for us, it's a great networking point. It's a very social space. I believe all of us much enjoy being surrounded by like-minded people. A lot of the companies here, especially the startups, the smaller businesses, they could be working from home just as well, but they choose to be here because at the end of the day, we're all social beings and we all want to be surrounded by other people that inspire you, that cheer you up on a bad day. And you find quite a lot of these people here. I think the social enterprise sector is becoming very professional these days. Looking back, I think we saw businesses that were mainly driven and motivated by the founders' personal ethical beliefs, which is a great starting point for any endeavor, let it be a business or personal project. But I think we've also seen a lot of businesses not being commercially viable enough to exist on the marketplace. What we see nowadays is that a lot of companies have enough expertise and acumen and also help from the industry, also from established industries, who are now seeking out for partnerships with social enterprises. So I think the times couldn't be any better to start a social business. And we're speaking of our very own experience here. Over the last 7 years, we've received so much help from creative people, from a lot of professions, with people that we wouldn't have been able to afford in the beginning as a startup. But these people, they see a mission, they see the purpose of what you're working on, which they might not necessarily find in their own profession when they work for companies that have a lot of money, a lot of corporations that try to sell a product that's maybe not in line with their very own beliefs. And then we jump in as a social enterprise and say, look, we've got a great product to offer. We don't have the money quite yet, but maybe you still want to work with us. And that happened many, many times. And I think the amount of support you receive, the amount of help, doors being opened for you as a social enterprise is tremendously higher than in the normal sort of shoulder-on-shoulder business world out there. Also, the people in this community are a lot nicer. Companies try to help each other out tremendously across industries, across sectors. Social enterprises all work on sort of similar problems, and we feel like we're all rocking the same boat, and we reach each other, our hands to help each other out. It's an interesting one. I think there is a change in consumer behavior and also in very personal expectations when it comes to work, when it comes to consumption, when it comes to the way to live your life. A lot of people, as you said, especially the young ones, are becoming very aware of what they do to their body, what they do to others, to the planet, how we want to leave this planet to other generations. These are all topics that I think we now have the time to think about, because all our other demands and needs are almost fully satisfied. If you grow up in a Western world and you're lucky enough to be born in a wealthy environment, or in a sufficiently wealthy environment, I would say, then you soon end up with these kind of questions as sort of the last bit of your journey. What do I want to achieve in my life? What do I want to be a good citizen? What's the story I want to tell to my grandchildren the day I die? And yes, we see this a lot. We see this amongst the people that work with us, our colleagues, that are all driven rather by the impact that we create, by the people that we help and the stories that we help to create, rather than just money, a paycheck at the end of the month. I believe that this in particular is something less and less people from sort of generations born after 85, 90s are concerned with nowadays. They want to change something. They want to be part of a movement they feel very strongly connected to, and not just receive huge amounts of money to buy 3, 4 cars and 2 houses with. I think we've had this time to also question consumerism as such, whether just buying more goods will eventually lead to a happy and healthier life. These are questions being asked quite a lot these days, and yeah, for a growing number of young people, the answer is simply no. So they turn to more ethical tasks and journeys, I believe.